I wonder many times if people in, journalism schools nowadays are really learning what the term analysis means. It means that you try to get into the mind of your opponent. That's one component of it. Try to understand what all the sides in an issue are thinking, what their motivations are, what the consequences are to the individual, the group, and the society at large. And it just seems that we've kind of lost that. Seems like that, if you look at news articles 30 years ago, they seem like college text compared to what we get today. But anyway, I'm going to go into an area where I really am worried that our ability at analysis is going to get even more diluted in the popular society. And that's not even with just the media, being involved in this. And that is, I think it's safe to say that we are being drowned or becoming submerged in a kind of quicksand of social media. That means, the idea of social media is good. And we could say that, I'd say, well, since 2008, social media has dominated a great deal of our election process. And to a large degree, that has taken away some of the power of the corporate media, because people can communicate, they can share, they can interact with people all over the world and be able to not have to depend on, an article that might only hit, let's say there's a special publication that only has maybe 20,000 subscribers, but it's a very important piece of news or information. Well, it's not going to hit that many people, but with social media, that can be shared and shared and shared and might reach millions of people by the time it's over. And that's a good thing. But I'm wondering if maybe sometimes a little bit too much of a good thing can be dangerous. And let me go into some examples of that. And that is this. If we look at the election, the Trump versus Hillary election that was held just recently, one of the real main differences was the effect of Twitter. I mean, it seemed like Donald Trump had some sort of strange implant that, he was continuously on Twitter. Now, the thing is about Twitter, although it's not one of my personal favorite media platforms, the problem with it, it seems to have taken that concept of the soundbite. The soundbite. It's where when an interview is taking place with someone, that particular someone, if they're smart, will try to figure out what that reporter is looking for, and then they'll design a zinger, a little statement that will be taken into whatever part of his or her presentation is actually shared with the public. Okay? That's a soundbite. About a one sentence or even less. It gets out there and people remember. And Twitter seems to be based on it. You come up with a cool sentence, maybe supply a link, and you send it out to your followers, hoping that it'll be retweeted out to other followers and start taking a life of its own. And then people, when they're reading their feed, will see that and go, oh, wow, that's cool, and so forth. My problem with the soundbite and the Twitter comment that generally you see, which, again, it's just usually about a sentence with or without a link, is that it really doesn't have context. You don't really hear a lot about the issue. And what's really bothering me is I'm now starting to see national publications. And this is true for both the left and the right, okay? I like to go through everything. I like to read what all sides are saying. Okay? But the thing is, I'm noticing now that articles are starting to get shorter. And often, there's not even an article at all. It'll be maybe a paragraph. And then you'll see a bunch of people's Twitter feeds. And with maybe a sentence in between, making a comment of, the person making a comment of their own. And that's troublesome. I mean, it makes me think back to that scene in 1984. If you haven't seen the movie, the one with Richard Burton in it, you really ought to. Okay? It's a classic. And of course, based on a classic book. But anyway, there's a scene in which Winston is talking to someone at the center they work for. You know, they're not actually just regular people. They're part of the people who doctor the news. So it fits what Big Brother wants it to say. And there's a scene in which his friend is, sitting there saying, in the future, we're getting rid of words and we're getting everything condensed, and the dictionary is going to get smaller, and eventually, and I think he says something like in 100 years, a person won't even be able to have a conversation. And you think about that within the context of when Orwell wrote it. And then you look at today's society and you're thinking, whoa, this might actually happen. I mean, I think we're probably going to start losing words because the people aren't reading as much anymore. People aren't really maybe having a thirst for analysis in publications. And if publications notice, get this, if, regardless of how you feel about the corporate media, this is true too for the independent media. If they start noticing that they get maybe 100,000 people visit a particular article that is just a little short thing with some Twitter feed and stuff, doesn't take much at all to really put it together, and then they notice that there is an article that really goes into depth about a particular issue, maybe the same issue that, with all the Twitter feed, but it only gets 15,000 visitors. That is going to really influence the way that news articles are going to be published. You're not going to see so many words. You're going to tell someone when they're writing a story, shorten it, make it more concise, to the point, add some Twitter examples to make your point from celebrities or politicians. I was going to say academics, but I'm not sure academics get on Twitter and send out something about their recent research. But the thing is, we're going to see maybe less people reading what few things we have out there that actually do go into depth and really dig deep into issues and policies and so forth. Again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Twitter. It's got its use. Again, you can connect, share, but most of it really is, it seems to me, sound bites. Little short things, Take a look for yourself. By the way, if you're on Twitter, I gotta make this, little push here. Go ahead and you can follow me. I don't make very many posts, but when I do, it's important. So it's Psycho Mike 777. Okay, Psycho Mike 777. Okay, now I'm making a plug for Twitter. Again, though, I haven't condemned Twitter at all. It's the users that are sending these things out. And the media that's actually taking this and, basically adapting the media to the social media. Then I'm looking at this other thing, and that's memes. Now, memes, when I first heard about them, I was like, well, what's a meme? I don't know whether this was like 5 or 6 years ago that I first heard about memes. But they've really taken off to where the point that politicians spend lots of money on people. Their whole job is to create memes to send out onto the internet in order to get people to identify emotionally or using comedy to either make a point positive for them or to really ridicule the other side. Now, the memes, to me, they tend to reduce an issue to the micro components, again, without context. They're funny. They're funny to use. I've noticed that if you go onto a political forum, there are times when someone will write, this really in-depth response. And you're just thinking, you know what? I saw a meme the other day. I'm just going to post that. So you post the meme. And then that person will be like, I wrote this really in-depth response, and you just put a meme up. And then you respond with a meme. And it kills the argument. And the thing is that I'll make an excuse here. With adults, you probably have a certain context going on. You probably understand more of the issue, and you assume that the person that you're debating with and the people reading it understand the issue far more in depth than just the meme. But I've noticed something. A lot of young people out there, smart young people, are quoting memes. I've seen people actually, you get in a discussion with them, 18, 19, 20 years old, and they'll say something that is a meme because you saw it the other day. Maybe it was on your Facebook feed or something like that. And they'll quote it as if it were true. Okay? I saw a meme the other day. It was kind of ridiculing Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving. It shows a picture of the pilgrims and the Indians eating. And it says, what better way to show love than to invite your friends over for dinner and then kill them the next day? Now, the thing is, if you know the true history of Thanksgiving and the true history of what was going on then and what actually did tend to reduce the population of American Indians, that being the diseases that were brought over by the colonists, no fault of theirs. It would be like if we went to another planet, just randomly, you step through a portal and boom, you're on that other planet. Like in that, what was the name of that movie, TV series, Stargate. The one thing they forget about in Stargate is if you walk through this portal, maybe that flu you had that you're just getting over or something, you just wiped out the entire planet because they had no immunity to it. And so the thing is, there's the context. But if you read these kinds of things, you start thinking, oh, the pilgrims just massacred everyone after the event. And that's not true. Okay? But if you read this kind of stuff over and over and over and over and over again, and you don't have the context of a really in-depth study of history, which a lot of people in America really don't have, okay, then it is damaging. And so this is a problem here too with the social media. And I would tend to think that maybe, kids 30 years ago that did not have social media probably learned how to investigate much better than when they're spending 6 and 7 hours on the internet every day, inundated with this stuff. Maybe they had a better ability to at least question and analyze and so forth. Another thing I'm noticing too about people that spend a lot of time on social media is they seem to start doing something called confirmation bias. And what that is that we tend to go into things that confirm that we're right. And we try to find things from the other side that confirm just how awful the other side is. And believe me, no matter what the issue, organization, whatever, you can find wonderful aspects of it and you can find awful aspects of it. But we're starting to get into this confirmation bias where we sit around and it's like being in a crowd, okay? It's like being in this big crowd, and you know how crowds work, One person, yells, break the window, and someone else says, no, lynch the sheriff, and so something like from, old westerns or something like that. And people just tend to kind of try to escalate in order to get attention. And then the crowd just starts taking a mind of its own, or the transference of the ego onto the group. And I think we're seeing this a lot in regards to the election in 2016, where the people that were for Trump, they were confirming how wonderful they were and patriotic and everything, grand. The people that were against Trump were doing the same thing, actually, for the most part. I'm not talking about the people that go out and burn stuff down or throw stuff or try to ban free speech and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the regular person. But then at the same time, both sides were trying to demonize the other, to the point that right now we've really poisoned the body politic. People are so angry at each other that I read an article, and if you're listening to this on YouTube later, maybe dated, but people are worried about the holidays this year, because Thanksgiving, they're worried that, oh my gosh, the kids, they voted for Trump, and grandma hates Trump and voted for Hillary, and there's going to be a huge fight. Okay? This is because of social media. Because what normally in the old days would have just been, a knockdown, drag out fight, and then it's over, shake hands, and, come back 4 years later. No, it's not going to have a chance to heal. Okay? People are going to go on social media, and they're just going to continue this fight that took place during the election. Maybe there won't be as many people involved, but there's going to be enough that it's not going to die down. It's not. Now, by the way, I'm not saying anything should be curbed about social media, but I just think we need to take a look at it. Okay? At least from a sociological or psychological point of view. Now, the other thing that may be hurting is, again, I mentioned how many hours people are spending on social media. Now, again, a lot of it's good. All right? I have found lots of really important information out there on social media. But I use this example with my daughter, who sometimes has a really hard time going to bed at night, because she's on Instagram and Facebook and all these other social media platforms. Flipping through them. Looks like some sort of science fiction thing where you got the robot going, I'm like going, hey, wait a minute, how can you even know what's being said there? The thing is that I think often it's kind of like when you're eating potato chips. You know the feeling, right? You've become satisfied. You got your salt craving out of the way, or whatever craving you were feeling like. The potato chips have now satisfied it. However, you don't want to stop until you get to one of those really perfect ones that's just covered with, monosodium glutamate or whatever they put on those things. And it's just going to give your taste buds this like, whoa! And then you can just wrap up the package and put it away. And what happens? You often wind up finishing the bag off because you just can't find that one wonderful chip. Or you eat a whole bunch of them until you do find a wonderful one. But nevertheless, you were satisfied maybe 30 or 40 chips before. But you had to have that special one. And this is happening to a lot of people. And I'm not just zeroing in on young adults. I'm zeroing in, too, I'm seeing this with elderly people. They're flipping through, and you're like, I thought you were going to go to bed early. And they're kind of like, well, just a minute. And again, you're just trying to find something that's going to be that wow story that made the last 3 hours of surfing through your social media worth it. And this is something that's, again, quite troubling. We are becoming addicted to it. Now, I heard this. I haven't been able to find the study. Maybe it's not out there. But I heard that nowadays, if you show a picture of a person's boyfriend, girlfriend, or their wife or husband to them, there's a certain chemical reaction that takes place in their brain. And, it's the dopamine and so forth that goes out, pleasure, like, yay, I like this person, I'm looking forward to seeing them again. But now they're finding that people have that same response to their iPhones. I mean, we have relationships, biochemical relationships with our phones and computers. that bring us this wonderful world of pretty people, that go to glamour shots and get the right picture, or making the most wonderful statement, or, what's even worse is these misleading videos. I see these all the time on Facebook and so forth, in which they're not actually lying, but you cut words out and you don't show context. Again, social media is very bad for context. And they put on these things, and I don't care which candidate or cause you're aiming for. They make the person look demonic, or they make them look angelic. One of the two. But you can look at these things and they're absurd, but then you look and it says 24 million views. And you're going, oh my gosh, 24 million? Or more. But nevertheless, even if it was 700,000, I saw one, just a few minutes ago, 700,000 views, it's still reaching a lot of people. And people read that, and they're probably going to read the stuff that they agree with already. But then they read about a politician or whatever, and then they're going, my gosh, it's worse than I thought. He or she is really evil. They think every time they see this person, it's going to be like music from The Omen playing in the background, like when Damon shows up on the scene. The thing is that, again, I wouldn't go out there like, they're talking about with Facebook, oh, we're going to get rid of fake news. I've seen some pretty lousy fake news stuff out there. It really irritates me when I see a headline and I'm going, is that real or is it not? And then I go to it and, they're quoting, a movie star's name, as being an expert on nuclear physics. And you know very well that this is a fake news site. But I would rather put up with a few fake news sites because I still have enough faith that we have not reached the level of idiocracy to where, people will know what is fake and what isn't. And there is a certain level of discernment that they will have. I'm really worried that what you'll have is people coming in and wanting to say, well, I don't really agree with this story, so therefore it's fake, so therefore it's a fake news site. That's very dangerous. That's extremely dangerous. So while I'm saying that we really need to look at the media, we need to look at social media, we need to examine it, we need to perhaps even teach people, maybe there should be classes in school about how to wisely use social media and not let it use you. I wouldn't go in there and let the government control it, put restrictions on it, and, basically mess around with freedom of speech. Anyway, we're running out of time here. So, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you'll tune in next week for another edition of Unlock the Door Radio here on UCY TV Productions. Take care now.
You are listening to